class, we are for section B, I am able to cover the for loop discussion. And so we didn't get time. No, for section A, I did for loop for you, right? Yeah. Okay, then cool. Good. So then for section B, I couldn't do it. I'll do it for them today. So, but couple of things before we get started. Today's class will be very basic, not much to worry about, so you can all relax. So in C programming language, so there are primitive operations that are available in the C programming language, or these mathematical operators. This is, right now we are looking at Essential C book. Let me do one thing. Great. So we are looking at these essential, the mathematical operators that are available in C programming language, or addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and remainder. So these are the primitive operators. These are the arithmetic operators that are available. So all these are binary operators because they require two operands, and minus doubles up as a unary operator because we can have something like, for example, in one of the lectures we wrote, ABSA is equal to minus A. So here it is acting as a unary operator minus, but in some other place it could be something like A is equal to B plus C, or A is equal to B minus C. So minus acts as a binary operator. What is a binary operator? An operator which has two operands. Minus has two operands here, plus has two operands here. Similarly, division operation. Oh, you're not able to see problem. Sorry. Yeah, it should be. Yeah, so these are addition is a binary operator, division, multiplication, remainder, these are all binary operators. And other, so this is the first, and minus operator, it acts both as a binary operator and a unary operator. Unary operator means it has only one operand. And here, so an important thing when we talk about operators is this idea of associativity and precedence. So addition operation, so all these operations, they are left associative, I guess. I am not sure, I have to check, but addition, subtraction, multiplication, they are left associative. Not sure about division and remainder. I want you to check. In the last class, we discussed about associativity, right? Yes or no? Left associativity. So what it means is, if you think of, if you have a statement like A is equal to B plus C plus D, there are two ways of interpreting this. Okay, so this is A. And so one way of doing it is this. And the other way of doing it is this. You first compute. Are these expression trees making sense for you? The one on the left side, the expression tree on the left side, is a left associative tree, is computation. The expression tree on the right side, it is right associative. So this is left associative, this is right associative. And addition and subtraction, they follow left as multiplication. All these are left associative operations. And division and remainder, I don't know, you have to check it. Okay, so check and see what. And whenever you have a doubt, okay, for whatever reason, let's say you want C plus D to be evaluated first, you can override the associativity by putting a parenthesis. And when we put a parenthesis around C plus D, then it gets the highest. So then what happens is you are overriding the default associativity. Whatever that is present in C plus D, it will be evaluated first. So in terms of the tree, what happens is the way, if you want to think about this tree, if you put parenthesis, then what happens is, for the sake of simplicity, I'm not putting A equal to, so we will have B, and then we will have C plus D. So this is the tree associated with this expression because we have put parentheses. So division and remainder are also seems to be left associated. Left associativity means it's very simple. So let's say if you put it in another way, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus whatever, let's say, if you keep adding from the left, then it is left associative, and if you keep adding from the right, it is right associative. And the C programming language by default does the computations from the left for addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and even for remainder, it seems. Are you all with me here? The idea of associativity? No, the right tree is not right associative. The right tree, we are putting a parenthesis because since we kept a parenthesis, C plus D will be evaluated. No, GCC doesn't compile from right to left, no. Yeah, that's true, Aibo. The one I drew earlier, it is right associative. So this idea of associativity and how you can override anything by using parentheses is important. And the second, so Hardik has this question, 20%, 6% 2 will be evaluated as 0. Try it, Hardik, and tell me how is it evaluated. So the next idea is this idea of precedence. So there is this question, what if we have A is equal to B plus C plus D? Then it is simple, na? So B plus D will be evaluated first, and whatever that value, it is added to D. Yes. So the next idea is the idea of precedence. I think you may have learned this in your +1, +2. Let's say if you have something like A plus C, A is equal to B plus C star D. For the sake of, again, simplicity, I ignore that A is equal to BODMAS. Yeah. So what do? So you, there are two expression trees possible. One is, so plus B star CD. So that is, if you see, you multiply C with D, multiplication has a higher precedence than addition. So because of that, you multiply this C times D, and then you add that value to B. So this is the first tree, T1. There is a second tree we can envisage, that is star D, B plus C. In this, addition has higher precedence than multiplication, and this is not the one which we use. This is not the one which we use this in a C. The convention that we use is this: A is equal to B plus C star. So multiplication has higher precedence than addition, and multiplication has higher precedence than division also. But let's say if you want to if this is what we want, what should we do? This is what we have in mind is this computation expressed by T2. Then how should we express the computation in T2? Yeah, how do you put the parenthesis? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so B plus C times D. So if this is the computation that we have in mind, then we will just say B plus C times D. So that's all. So if you look at the book, the language specification, there are many operators, and then you will have so many details, but you don't need to, you remember some basic things, but beyond that, if you get a doubt, like for example, if you get a doubt whether multiplication has higher precedence over division, so whenever you get a doubt, what should you do? While writing an expression, if you get a doubt, what should you do? Use parentheses. Google. So see, Googling is okay, or checking it with a program is also okay. But what happens is when you write a code, and if it is modified by someone else, like for example, open source, there is a lot of open source software, right? Linux, Chrome browser, Firefox. So when you are working, or even not only open source, when you go to a company and you will be working on the code which is written by someone. So parenthesis is a good way of documenting what your intention. It's not all the time required, but whenever if you had to check on Google or a book or whatever it is to figure out what is the precedence and associativity, then that means the person who is coming after you to look at that code, he also will get that doubt. So in that case, you comment it or you put parentheses explicitly so that it becomes easy for the person to understand your code. All right. So that's the thought process. So precedence and associativity, these are the two ideas that we are looking at. Precedence, operator precedence. So let me, associate. So there are these questions about C++, C, Java, how do you learn a new programming language, etc. So when you have to learn a new programming language, the things to look at are what are the primitive data types provided by that programming language, integer, float, double, what are the data types provided, what kind of mathematical operators are provided by that programming language, and what are the precedence rules, what are the associativity rules. So this is how you should pursue, trying to understand a new programming language. So you are just not learning C programming language in this class. You are learning algorithmic principles, number one. Number two, you are learning how to learn. So what are the principles that you need to keep in mind when you are learning any programming language? Awesome. So the next important idea, which we looked at already, but want to it's important to understand that is this idea of typecasting, okay, variable promotion and truncation. Okay, so let me, maybe we can use, try to understand this idea using, by writing some programs. Great. So now, so let's say int IA stands for integer, float FA. So we declared two variables. Okay. So IA is equal to, let's say 2, and then FA is equal to IA. So when we do this assignment statement, so IA gets, so let's compile this and see what happens. Okay, let's compile this. CD CP21A GCC. See, you will see a warning, okay, that you are translating an integer to a floating point number. You get a warning. You are able to see the warning, right? This is the warning that return type so defaults to int. This is not the warning. Actually, this is the warning that we are getting. Yeah. So let me keep void here so that we can get over this warning. Or GCC minus. Yeah. So if you see here, it says variable FA set but not used. Okay, don't worry about it. Anyway, so here the value 2 is assigned to a floating point number, and the internal representation of 2 in the variable IA and the internal representation of 2 in FA, they are different. Minus wall, it gives all the warnings, minus capital W, A all, that is generate all the warnings. That means. So there is an implicit typecasting that is happening from on line number 9. And we have to, in order to make sure that that is what is intended, we can use an explicit typecasting operator, float IA. When we use this, then we are making our intent clean. I know what I am doing, and I want to store the contents of the integer variable into the floating point variable FA. Okay. I'll remove this. So the point is taken. There are two options here. So one option is option 1 is say FA is equal to IA, and option 2 is what you have here. You are seeing here. Line 10 and 12 both are the same, because line 10 automatically gets translated or is equivalent to line 12. But what's the difference between line 10 and line 12? No warning, manually casting, implicit, explicit. All these things are true. So the primary thing is you are documenting your intent. That is, you are documenting your program. It's not a bug in the program. If someone looks at it and say, hey, this programmer is assigning an integer to a floating point value, if they look at just line number 10, maybe the bug could be here, or whatever may be the problem. But if you see on line number, if he sees the line number 12, then you are documenting your intent that you want to map an integer to a floating point number. Does it make sense? So second is, let's say FA is equal to 1.2 and IA is equal to FA. Let's see what the compiler says. So the compiler is not saying anything. Yeah. So even it's not giving any warning. But if you printf IA is equal to %d, FA is equal to %d, what do you think will be output on the screen? What do you think will be output on the screen? me GCC typecasting node C. So IA is equal to 1 and FA is equal to 1.2. So the value got truncated. It's not rounded, it is truncated. Like for example, if FA is equal to 1.9 and if you compile it, you will see you get 1. It's not a rounding, it is truncation. It's just better way of thinking is truncation. It just gets truncated. Okay. So there is a promotion that is happening and there is a truncation that is happening. Okay. So this is so this and this, these are let me do one thing. So here there is a typecasting. So this is implicit typecasting. Implicit typecasting. And this is explicit typecasting. And in both cases, what is happening is promotion. So it is better to explicitly do the typecasting. It will be good for the program. It is easier to read the program in the future. That's true. And here, so truncation is happening. Typecasting is happening. So here also, yeah, let me do one thing. So here also typecasting. And here also implicit typecasting. And then this is truncation. Especially in this case, I would say the best thing to do is to do this. Because there is a loss of information. And you really need to kind of convey that clearly that I am fine with this loss of information through explicit typecasting. So far in today's lecture, we looked at two important ideas. One is operator precedence, associativity, typecasting. These are very, very important ideas in C programming language, or any programming language for that matter. So there are some programming languages which are called as strongly typed programming languages, where the compiler on line number 16, it gives an error. You are trying to assign a floating point number to an integer and it gives an error. It doesn't let you do it unless you explicitly typecast it. There are some programming languages like that. And the reason why they do it, is that you don't end up making mistakes in the program. Because if there is take a program, so if you catch the bug early on, then the cost involved in fixing that bug is easy. But if you, let's say, after the code is deployed and the bug is found, then the cost will be extremely expensive. Like for example, you are building a software for cars, okay, for the braking system in the car. And if the bug is caught at the time of development, it is easy to fix. But let's say if it is deployed in the car, then in order to fix the bug, you have to recall all the cars. All the cars have to come to the servicing center and their software needs to be updated. Arya has this question. IA doesn't change to float. IA can never be float because IA is declared as an integer. So it's not possible to. IA always holds an integer, the variable IA. That is not allowed, Ronak. So Ronak has this question, interesting question. Let me. So this is not allowed. This statement is not. It's not a valid C statement. Yeah. Because float IA on the left hand side, it will give a value, and you are trying to assign a value to another value. It doesn't make sense. So line number 22 is not allowed. No, you cannot change the data type of a variable. You cannot change once the data type of a variable is once it is fixed. Okay. If you have some questions, I want you to read and try to get answers to some of these questions, and we'll answer later also in subsequent lectures. But the ideas discussed so far, you're all good till this point. Okay. So now we will move on to arrays. Okay. So because arrays, if we discuss arrays in today's lecture, it will be very helpful to solve problems in the next set of problems. Tomorrow itself, it will be helpful. So here we write our first program using arrays. So let's say you want to find the average marks of students in a class. You want to find the average marks of students in the class. So we want to store, there could be 100 students in the class. So if there are 100 students in the class, do you use 100 variables? S1, S2, S2, S3 do you think it is possible like this? Can you go like this? S1, S2, S3? No, right? Doesn't make sense. Even if you are able to do it, writing a program, let's say, you do whatever, blah, it's 100. If you want to find the sum of all these variables, then no, Sankalp, it's just not the memory. Memory, actually, technically, it will be the same. But S1 plus S2 plus S3 plus S4, it's like you are doing calculator computation. It's not even time waste, Shiva. You are stuck with void main and int main. Ignore it, just use void main for the time being. Don't worry. You cannot write. Let's come back to the code. Okay, so this is not. It doesn't work. It's like you're doing calculator addition. It doesn't work. So we have to use this thing called as an array. Int marks 100. So marks for 100 students. There are 100 students in the class. Or we can even say hash define number of students is 100. I cannot have 100, I'll put 10. And then I will say number of students. What happens to this line number 7 eventually? What happens to line number 7 eventually? Number of students, that constant gets replaced by 10. So we are declaring an array of, this is called as an array whose size is 10, an array whose size is 10, and the name of the array is marks. And the name of the array is marks. So now we want to write a loop, read marks. We want to write a loop to read the marks. So I want to use one more variable. So let me introduce one more idea here. We can just use int I here. That is a convention. There is this question, why number of students is all in caps? It is a convention that we use. It's a convention, naming convention. Yeah. So when you are using macros, we use capital letters, all caps. So on line number 9, you see now we are declaring a variable called as int I as a part of for loop declaration itself. It is possible, and then you do some stuff in the loop. But the interesting thing is the variable I is visible only within that loop. It is not visible before line 11, it is not visible, and after line 13, it is not visible. Are you with me? Pay attention to what I'm saying, guys. In the for loop, we are declaring int I. I is not visible before line 11, and it is not visible after line 11. I is variable I is not visible. We cannot access it. It's not visible here. Okay, so now we want to read the marks. Okay, scanf %d and I less than number of students. I is equal to I plus 1 scanf %d ampersand marks. Are you with me on this loop? So marks, so I want all of you to, in the memory, what happens is the marks is allocated a sequence of 10 locations. So the first one is accessed using marks 0. The second one, the second element is accessed using marks 1, and this is accessed using marks 2, so on and so forth. So finally, we have marks 9. So the index, this I is called as an index. This index goes from 0 to 9 because the size of the array is 10. It starts from 0 and it goes till, sorry, this is less than or equal to, or it can be I less than or equal to. So these are either both are right. We can say that marks 1 acts as an individual variable. Each of marks 0, marks 1, marks 2, they act as individual variables. And 4 bytes of memory are allocated to marks 0, and 4 bytes of memory are allocated to marks 1, 4 bytes of memory are allocated to marks 2. So if the address of marks 0 is 10, what will be the address of marks 1? If the base address of marks 0 is 10, the address of marks 1 will be 14, and the address of marks 2 will be 18. Excellent. That's all, guys. You know everything in C. That's all. There's nothing more. So, C programming in 2 weeks. So, and then, yeah. So let's say, so we repeat the same. We just want to, for the sake of fun, we will print marks onto the screen. What you didn't get, Rhythm? I'm saying if the base address of marks 0 is base address of the array, so marks 0 starts at an address 10. It occupies 4 bytes, byte 10, byte 11, byte 12, byte 13. So marks 0 is allocated memory from bytes 10 to 13. and marks 1 will be allocated memory starting from 14. That's all. And I want you to pay attention. In the printf statement, we are not printing the address. Yeah, we didn't yet add up marks, but we are not printing the address. We want to print what are the marks. Okay, so let's compile this program and run this. GCC summary.c. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Huh. Okay, what happened? You didn't put /n. Awesome. Good. So I don't want to keep on typing 10 numbers again and again. So I'll put 5 here. Okay. And automatically everything changes. You know, number of students variable is declared, that not variable, it is macro is used on line 7, line 13, line 18. If I don't use the macro, I have to do the changes in 3 places, but now I just change in 1 place and I am good. Okay, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30. Yeah. So that's all. So we read the 5 marks and we printed the marks. That base is something to do with my machine. I also don't know why it is coming actually. Okay, so bottom 5 students got expelled. Okay. So now, if we don't know how many values the user wants to input, then what do we do? Good question. Yes, we will hold on to that question and perhaps answer it on a different class. So now we want to compute the average marks. Okay, average is sum of the marks divided by total number of students. Okay, so we want to compute sum of the marks. So what do we do? So we have a variable called as sum underscore marks. So we start with the initial estimate that the marks sum is 0. We start with the initial estimate that the mark sum is 0. And then what we do is we keep on improving our estimate of the marks. Okay, sum of the marks. So again, what we do, we have the same loop here. So when we go through this loop for the first time, we improve our estimate of the marks by adding to sum underscore marks. What should we add here? What is the statement that comes here? I, not I, marks I. Yes. So we keep iterating. It's like we keep iterating. Sum underscore marks is like a big jar, and we keep iterating. We pour marks of one student into the jar. We pour marks of another student into the jar, so on and so forth. Are you all with me here? Okay. And finally, we print, let's not worry about, I'm commenting out code from line 23 to 28. It's not useful. And then we say printf average marks is equal to %f sum underscore marks divided by number of students. Let's see what happens. So GCC summary.c. Oh, okay. Let me. Is it a warning? Okay, let's see. What happens is here. Let's run this program and see, and then we will revisit it again. So GCC sum array.c. Okay, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40. The average marks is 21. Is the average really 21 or is it? What is the average? Can you? Okay. In this particular case, the average turns out to be an integer. But otherwise, let's say if sum of the marks is equal to 50, and yeah, so good. So let's try this again. Dot a dot out 6, 5, 7, 9, 10. So here the average marks is shown as 7. Is it really 7 or it is 7.4? Right? So the problem here is when you divide what is the sum? This 34 by 5, 7, 37. So we get 37 divided by 5. When you divide an integer with an integer, what happens is the decimal part is truncated automatically. The decimal part is. So what we have to do is the decimal, I want all of you to pay attention. When you divide two integers, the decimal part is automatically ignored, truncated. So we want to convert this sum underscore marks to float. When you convert sum underscore marks to float, then what happens is the expression becomes, so the expression becomes 37.0 divided by 5. And when it is 37.0 divided by 5, then 5 automatically gets promoted to 5.0. This is an implicit typecasting of 5 to 5.4 happens. And then finally, the output we get 7.4. Are you with me? We are using explicit typecasting for sum underscore marks so that 37 by 5 becomes this. This is happening via explicit typecasting. And we are moving from here to here through implicit typecasting. And finally, we are generating 7.4. And now we can, so earlier, it is the compiler is complaining. So if we declared sum underscore float as float initially, it is good. That's a better way of doing it. Yeah, that's true. We can start on line number 8. We can start on line number 8. So instead of this, we can start on line number 8 using float sum underscore marks. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So very good. You're all making very good observations, good suggestions, all good. So let's run this program. So let's use the same 6, 5, 7, 9, 10. We get average as 7.4. You're all good with this program? With the use of arrays, we will be using this many problems I will give you in the next assignment using arrays. So watch out. So let's go for 2D array. For the sake of time, I will copy paste all this. And now we will work with the 2D matrix. Let's say we want to work with a 3 by 3 matrix. Let's call it matrix. Yeah, you can use double also instead of. So now we want to use a 2 by 2 matrix. We want to. So this matrix looks like this. Okay, so here this is your 2 by 2 3 by 3 matrix. So this element is accessed by using this particular syntax. A of the 0th row, and 0th element. So this is row 0. And this is row 1. and this is row 2. Similarly, this is column 0, this is column 1, and this is column 2. So how do we access this element? This element, how do we access? What is the syntax for accessing this? A of 2, A of 1, 1. This is the notation that we use. Good. And how do we access this element? A of 2, 2. Great. That's all. Now you are all rock stars. And yeah, so now, so we'll have read matrix. Okay, so for I, so now we are looking at what is called as a two-dimensional 2D, a loop within a loop. So now you are looking for the first time a loop within a loop. So we have a 2D array, and what should it be? What should I read it here? A of I, j. What will be the element? Harsh has this question. What will be the element A of 1, 0? What is A of element 1, 0? This is the one. This is first row and 0. So this one, this element is first row, 0th columns. Are you fine with the loop on line 11, line 12 to line 40? 2D loop on. Is there anyone who is a bit confused? array.c. Line 12 to line 13, what are we doing in line 12 to line 13? Let's format document. Are you seeing the code now clearly? Does the code make sense? There is an outer for loop. So what we are doing is for I is equal to 0. So let me redraw this picture again. So, and also one more thing I suggest, some of you are putting your questions privately to me. It's okay to put it for your 4 classmates, because otherwise I have to explain the question again to them. So don't worry. So no one will think bad about you. Okay, so we are all here to learn together. So the context will be easy. So now, so what happens is for I is equal to 0, so you set I is equal to 0, and you go and execute the body of the loop. Yes or no? So you, because that's what the for statement says, right? So you set I is equal to 0, and with I is equal to 0, you execute the body of the loop. So I is equal to 0. So this is, and with I is equal to 0, you try, you execute the inner loop for various values of z, 0, 1, 2. So when j is equal to 0, what is the element that we will read? Scanf statement. When I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 0, what is the element? We read this element. And after that, j becomes equal to 1, and then we scanf this state element. And then j becomes equal to 2, we do a scanf of this element. So now when j goes from 0, 1, 2, the inner for loop finished execution. So now what happens is I will become equal to 1 because you come out of the inner for loop, you go to the outer for loop. And then again, we say j is equal to 0, 1, 2. So now what happens is with I is equal to 1, j is equal to 0, you read this element, and then you read this element, and then you read this element. And then after that, we will have I is equal to 3. We go out here, and then we read again. I is equal to 2, not 3. So we read this element, and this element. Are you all with me here? Yes, no, maybe, confused. So n here in outer for loop, inner for loop, wherever it is, n is replaced with 3. N is replaced with 3. N is replaced with 3. Okay. So now if you want to print them, what will be the code? I'm just copy pasting this code. We cannot make the array start with 1. Okay, so I want to print this matrix. So I use printf. Let's use printf. And then maybe use 5 spaces for print. I'm using what is Lakshmi? I didn't get you, Lakshmipati. Balaji. Should I call you Balaji? Or Lakshmipati Balaji, bowler. Are you the same bowler or you are a different person? Or since we cannot bowl anymore, Balu. Ah, awesome. Yes, Balu. That sounds awesome. So now what is happening is while printing, the first row you want to print on the same line. And after you print the first row, you want to print a new line and go to the second row. %5d means use 5 spaces to print 5 columns to print whatever the value it is. Let's run it and see. Let's use actually 8. Let's run this program. GCC 2darray.c. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9. See, we read a matrix and we printed a matrix. That %8d, it controls the amount of space. Like instead of 8, I give 4. Then you see what happens. Same program. I just copy paste this. So that copy paste. See, now the space changed. That is %5d means 5 columns are allocated to print that value. Are you all with me? Not 4 spaces are inserted. It's not inserted, Tejas. It is 4 columns are used for printing. 4 columns are used for printing. It's not 4 spaces are introduced. If you don't keep the printf on line number 25, what happens? On line number 25, if you don't have printf, what happens? Everything will be printed on the same line. Everything will be printed on the same line. Okay. Yes, Siddharth. If you put a printf on line number 23, in line number 23, what are we doing in line number 21 to 24? we are printing every row. When I is equal to 0 and go inside, we will print one row, row 0. When I is equal to 1, we print row 1. When I is equal to 2, we print row 2. So if we, while printing row 1, if we keep a slash n here, then all the elements in the row, they will be printed in different line. It doesn't look pretty. So that's all. So now, if you have to write a program to add two matrices, will you be able to do that? That is going to be a problem for you in the next assignment. How do you add two matrices? Can you do that to add two matrices? Transpose a matrix. Okay. So add all the elements in the matrix, multiply one matrix with a column, another vector. All sorts of matrix vector problems I will give you in the coming assignment. And also one of you asked about square root, I think this class or that class. No, don't worry about general syntax. Now I gave you 1D array, I gave you 2D array syntax, that is good. What about the vector product? No, so now you read a vector dot in one array, you read another vector in another array. You can fix the size of the vector 10, 20 or whatever it is, and then compute the dot product. So it's a very nice problem. You read the numbers in an array. Without using array also you can do. Don't use I1 star. No, you don't use that approach. You use value of n, like 10 or 20 or something like that. Okay, don't use I don't know that IJK directions in the vector. You just assume a vector. Vector, in my opinion, it's not that vector. It's a vector of n elements, n dimensions. Okay, not that 2i plus your physics vectors has only 3 dimensions, right? But once you come to computer science, it's just not two dimensions. You'll have n dimensions. So you read a vector as an array of n elements. Vector A, vector B is array of n elements. You compute a dot product of. We cannot, can't we use a variable for the size of an array? You can use, Radhikesh, I think in the latest C it is permitted, but yeah, C99 it is, yeah, it's okay. Even if you don't use a variable, I am fine with it. Okay. Okay, should we stop here? You're all happy with today's lecture? You looked at many cool ideas, and by Saturday, you will get more experience, and yeah, we'll get more interesting problem set. So yes, that's what is the syllabus of quiz 1. Whatever that is covered till the day before the quiz is part of quiz. Okay, I am